Get our case ready. This in here, we're going to change the bushing in the case here. So we're going to drive that out with a new bushing driver, or another bushing driver. So we're going to knock the old bushing out using our bushing driver handle. Bushing driver adapter. Alright, then got it. It's nice and clean there, good. We can set this down on our stand, like so. Oh, put some water in there somewhere. Saw some spray out. Take our new bushing, put a little bit of Loctite on it again. I want to make sure it doesn't move once it's in the case. Take our bushing driver adapter, locate our new bushing down there. It's got a little seam in the bushing right here. You can kind of see looks like a puzzle piece at the end of the bushing there. We don't want that to line up. There's a groove right here. We don't want that to line up with. So we don't want it to buckle and then come undone. So put it down in there, making sure that's not lined up. This one we can't really put a press on it, so I got a long bushing driver handle. You want to check it, make sure you don't go too far. You want to make sure you go down past that edge of that case there. So, there I am, I'm good. Again, I don't want to take a little rag. Wipe up that excess Loctite. We don't want that getting around the rest of the trans. So, alright, we'll blow that out. Put our lint in there. So we're putting our new seals on here. So where's the cap? Yeah, there's gonna be some editing here. We're gonna put lots of generous amount of assembly lube on here. You know what? Actually, I think I'm gonna use the gold assembly lube on this because it's a little slicker. So I'll put some of that on here. Oh, there it goes. I need a new tub of that apparently because it's getting empty. Anyway, we're going to put lots of generous amount of assembly lube on here. You know what? Actually, I think I'm going to use the gold assembly lube on this because it's a little slicker. I'll put some of that on here. Oh, there it goes. I need a new tub of that apparently because it's getting empty. Anyway, alright, so just smear that the rest of the way around. We got a line-up tab right here that we got to line up right here in this notch in the case. So look at that. There's a notch in the case there, and that tab right here has got to line up with that, so we're going to put that in. That makes sure that this window right here is always there where the parking pole sticks through. So we want to make sure that lines up. So line that up. Carefully drop that down in there. We don't want to damage the seal. And then we're going to push that down in place. Sometimes it's a little harder said than done. Or easier said than done. Brutal, but it didn't hurt it. Spring retainer, we need to put that back down in there, our spring retainer. We put our tool back down in there. There we go. Get the line up in there. There we go. Now we can tighten that down. That's going to compress that spring for us. Make sure we don't want to distort the spring, we just want to take it down far enough to get the snap ring in. Take the snap ring, and this is just like all of them. We have to make sure. Let me get that in that picture here. I want to make sure that they've got the right side facing up. Kind of hard to see on this one because it's so small. Just going to slide that down in place. Take our screwdriver. Use that just until you pop it down in there. It snaps in. Make sure it's in all the way around. And you let your tool back up. Take the tool out of there and you're all good. Go around it again with the screwdriver, make sure that snap ring's in the groove all the way. There's little tabs on this cage, spring cage, that hold that snap ring in so it doesn't pop out. Alright, and our case is ready now. So now we start assembling stuff into the case. Alright, so we got our ring gear. We're going to put some assembly lube on our bearing. Stick that to the ring gear. In the ring gear, we put that, take that with our finger, lower that down in there like so until it drops down in there and turns. We're going to take our planetary. This is our rear planetary. Now we check our planet, make sure everything's good. We got an 18 thousandths, so you can feel it. It's dragging a little bit, but it fits in there. And that's even a little bit tighter, so that's definitely good. 25 thousandths is our general rule of thumb on these. So we got our 18 thousandths in here, and it fits snug in all of these. And it does. We got good end play on our gear set. So we're good there. We'll take the bearing that rides right here, put a little bit of assembly lube on it again. Just enough to hold it in place. Put that on there. We'll take that, grab it by the center, drop it down in there and twist it until it drops down in place like so. Alright, now we can take our plates that we're going to reuse. Now this one's a wave plate. I don't know if you can see that in the picture. It's a wave plate. It's got a notch on it. This notch indicates which direction it goes. So that notch is going to fit right here in the case, just like so. And then we have corresponding notches on all of our clutch plates, steel plates. So we're going to drop those in the same way. And then we're going to put our new friction plates. We're supposed to be soaked. Put our new friction plates in there. One friction plate, then a steel plate. Alternate those all the way up. And we got all those in there like that. That spring that made it hard for us to get that center support out looks like this. It's a little leaf spring, or like kind of like a leaf spring. We'll put a little bit of assembly lube on the back side of it here. There's a little place you can see it sits down in here. Lay that down in place. Then we can take our center support, and we got empty spaces here that are going to line up with the large lugs down here. So those go in like so. We got to line it up also with our line it up also with our center race, and that's going to need to push down a little bit to get that going on. We'll put our snap ring back in, and I like to tuck this one end right up underneath that spring. Like that. Like that. And there we go. That's in place. Alright, so this is my old sun shell, and I showed you earlier. this thing moves around all over the place. That's where we'll get a problem. So we got our new sun shell here. This one here, you can see it's even harder to go in there. It's a lot tighter. It doesn't move around. It's a nice tight fit. These splines are going to be gone in a short period of time, and that will no longer work. So we're going to put our sun gear in. Got our new sun shell that's going to go in there. Got a washer that lays on top of this race between the sun shell and the race back there. We drop our new sun shell in. Fun, there we go. And we got our other ring gear that we got to put in. We're going to have to put a bearing on here. Now on the earlier ones, the older ones, they had a thrust washer that would actually fit on the drum, and this was flat across here. It didn't have this second step here. It had a step here, came up all the way flush here. And it would just use a washer on the sun shell. But this one's got the bearing. Goes in there like so. Let's go to 20. Alright, 20's got some drag on it. Yeah, it's feeling good there. Yeah, so we got 20 thousandths. We're still good. We're under our 25 thousandths, so we're good. Now this area right here, we need a bearing. So we're gonna put some grease on our bearing there. That locates on there. Now on the late ones, this one's an 02. The later one, this bearing actually doesn't locate there. It locates inside this housing here. So you'll have to put it down in there. You put that in. And there we go, we got that. Now, this is where we're going to have to get our output shaft, and we're going to have to slide that in from the back of the case. We'll have to put our new snap ring in there. So we'll lift this thing up. Slide that in from the back. I'm going to set this up on my stand here kind of precariously. This is where having other additional holding tools are kind of nice. Make sure I put that snap ring in the right way. If you come in here, you can see me doing the snap ring. So I just need to open it up, get it down in place. Once it's in place, I'm good. Now that output shaft can't fall out. I can make sure it locates down there and set it back on the stand. And there we go, our planetary assembly is all back together, minus the front sun gear. Alright, I'm good for that for now. Now I'm going to have to build my drums. My reverse drum and my input housing. So I got my piston, I got my new seals in the kit for this piston, so I'm going to put them in place. Making sure, now these are lip seals, so you can see they got a lip there, they're flat on this side. The lip needs to face towards the pressure, so that's going to be underneath the piston, so that's going to be on the bottom side of the piston. Well, it's lip facing the bottom of the piston. And if you look at the outside here, you can see the top, it's a larger diameter than the smaller. That's a relief for the lip to fit in. So if you put it on backwards, it's not going to quite fit right. So we got this like so, and there's our lip seal. We're going to put some assembly lube on this. Some assembly lube around the outside of it. And we're going to set that down in there, like so. And I got a tool that's going to help tuck that lip seal in place. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to work that in there carefully. I don't want to cut the lip seal. I just want to tuck it around so it goes down over and inside the bore there. Tuck that lip seal down in place gently. I don't want to push down on the piston at all. I'm going to let the weight of the piston basically pull itself down there. And once I get it there, then I can push it down the rest of the way. So my piston's in there. The seal isn't rolled over because I was able to spin that piston. I was able to turn that piston. So the seal's not rolled over, or I wouldn't be able to do that. So now I need to put this back together with the snap ring. holding it in place. I'll take it over to this little press here. I have an adapter for this press for doing this in here. A little weight. Like so. Push it down. There we go. Gotta make sure we get it over. Like a little tool here to lock this thing on. So I can lock it. Now I can take the snap ring again, making sure I'm putting it on the right way. You can use your snap ring pliers, or if you, sometimes you can just push it on there with your fingers. Like so. So that's in there. Now I can let that back off. And there we go. I'm all ready to put my clutches in there. Clutch plates are nice and clean from being inside the machine. Let's start out with my dish plate. There's a dish, and it goes with the dish side down. An upside down dining dish. And I'm going to alternate these every other one with a friction plate. And just drop those down in there, let them settle in, like so. Then we'll put our pressure plate on top of it. And we put our snap ring in there. And that's it for that drum. It's all ready to go back together. So we'll put that off to the side. We'll get our input drum. We have to do that over here on this cart. Get over to the light a little bit better. We've got a new O-ring we got to put down inside here. And that fits in a groove right inside here. You can't really see it from the angle we're getting. Well, yeah, you can. You can see that in the picture there. So that goes right in that little groove. You can see that. Then we got the, let's put some grease around this. Some grease around that O-ring. And grease around our little tower there. So, alright, put our first piston in is the 3/4 clutch piston. This is a molded piston. It's pretty easy. Slides down in there with a little bit of movement. You can walk it down in there. And again, fits in there. It's good. So the next one we're going to take and stack up this little thing on the table here. We've got our forward piston retainer. We got our 3/4 clutch return spring. Intake. Nice and clean now. Put some grease on that. Grease inside here. Take and put this like that. So now that's all assembled. That lays on here. We're going to line up these legs with the legs for the 3/4 clutch apply ring. And then we'll put a little bit of grease right here. Alright, we grab a tool. And we're going to put this down in the drum. So we got our lip seal protector. That's going to protect this lip seal. So we're going to put that right here over the top of the center of that drum. Now we can take this, line up the legs with the slots in the drum, and we just push that right down into place. And that seal protector made sure we didn't have any problems. It went right down past that. Now we got the second, our underrun piston, overrun piston I mean. Overrun piston, it goes down in there. This one pretty much just walks right down into place with no problem. We got our spring, it goes right there. And we're going to get our snap ring out of the back here. There we go, there's our snap ring. Snap ring pliers, and we'll take it over to the foot press. Over. Alright, so now we got it over here located in the foot press. We're going to push that down. Use our foot to hold it. Make sure we get that snap ring the right way again. This one's a little harder, not as easy to do with your fingers. So probably need a pair of snap ring pliers. So there's a bit harder snap ring. Once you get it down in the groove, there we go. It's in the groove. I can snap the press back up. pull that out. Alright, so we got some glazing on this one. It's a little more glazed than I like to just put back. So we're going to go ahead and hit it with a little buffing pad. We got a pretty good uniform, almost like a crosshatch looking finish on there now. So that's pretty nice. That'll leave it. And it's still smooth to the touch. It's not rough. This one I can just flip over. I don't even have to hit that one. We're going to start stacking this drum up. We're going to put our lube seal back inside this drum here where it goes. It splines down into those splines in there. And then we're going to put some lube on it, like so. We put our overrun clutches down in there first. And we're going to put the overrun pressure plate in there, our wave plate for our forward clutch. And then we got a bearing we need to locate down there, so a little bit of grease down here on this. Set our bearing over the top. And we've got our one-way clutch is going to spline into the overrun clutches down there, like so, until it's sitting down on the bearing. And then we'll put the rest of our forward clutches in over the top of that. So we're just going to do every other one like that and then just drop them down in here. So, until we're done. And then we're going to put our pressure plate on the top, and then we'll put our snap ring in. Like so. Now we're going to hit it with a little bit of air to make it pop up so we can see the clearance. You see the clearance there, looking pretty good. We'll grab a feeler gauge and check it. We're going to stick our little wire gauge down in there, and it fits just barely there. So I'll make sure the other one doesn't fit in there. It fits in there easily. Okay, so good. We're right between our 76 and our 45 thousandths. We're right where we need to be. We're good. Now we can start stacking up the next clutch pack. This is a ply ring. It's got little legs that go down and lock onto the ring coming up from the piston. So that ring doesn't just spread out, but lock in place. Let me start with the friction on top of that ply ring. And we're going to alternate. With a steel plate. And then a friction plate, and then a steel plate, and then a friction plate. And some of these steel plates are coated a little bit with some coating on them. And then a steel plate, friction plate, steel plate, friction plate. I'm missing a steel plate. I don't have enough steel plates. Steel plate, friction plate, and then where's my pressure plate? Alright, so now we've got everything stacked in there. We can check our clearance. Our 76 thousandths fits in there, which means we're not too thin, too tight. So that's good. Got a nice play there. What we're going to do though is we're going to put, now we're going to go ahead and go back and put our springs, our relief springs in here. These springs are to keep down for the push back on the piston for centrifugal apply. So we don't want centrifugal apply in there. We want to put these springs in here. There's 5 of them that go around here. And there we go. So there's our release springs, well, assistance springs. Put those in, and that holds that pressure plate up, and there we go. We've got a nice clearance in there. Our clutch plates aren't tight. Cool. Now we need to change the seals back here. Replace those new ones. So we're going to cut the old ones off. Scribe, just go in there and pull them out of there. These are solid Teflon seals, so we're going to have to use a special tool to put them on, or to resize them. There is a tool to slip them down over there. I've found it's just about as easy to just use a scribe and a little bit of caution and work them down in there by hand. So I'll take a scribe, work it around like so. Just walk it down past each groove until I get to the bottom groove. Once I get it to the bottom groove, I'm going to push it in a little bit, and I'm going to go get my tool. Get it pushed down into the ring, okay, into the groove a little bit, alright? You got a resizing tool that's going to fit over that, slides down. That resizes it down so it fits in the bore properly. So I'm going to do that with each one. You stretch it a little bit while you're doing this, walking it down. I just don't like the tool they make for this, for putting it down over on this particular transmission. On the older one it works okay. That works quick enough. Just make sure it's lined up. I want to make sure that the edges all fit into the groove, no problem, without anything. So when I press it down in with that, it resizes it. You can see it change the size of it. It now fits a lot better to the ring groove there. Maybe on this last one, we'll get a close up at the before and after so we can see what's going on here. So I'm making sure to push it in there, but you can see it's still puckering out a bit here and a couple other places. So when I push this down over it, and pull it back up, you can see it pulled it right up in, all the way around that, nice and even around that. So now I can check it on with my stator, make sure that my pump slides right over there without. There's a little bit of, you can feel the resistance that it's tight, but it's not going to cut that seal now when I'm installing it. Now I put my selective washer in there. Grease on it. Drop that down in place. And we got the bearing that fits right against that. Put this down in here. And you gotta make sure you put it in the right direction. The black race face is up on these. So. Alright, now we're gonna put our other drum over the top here. And these clutches spline to these teeth here on the back of the drum. So put that over and we just gently work it down until it's all the way down. So we're down. Now we need to we're ready to drop this into the case. What we're going to do is we're going to take our bands, and this is the side the servo works on. Our servos are here. This is where our band anchor goes. We're going to put this side in like this, and this won't fit in there all the way, so we're going to have to put it at an angle that's kind of a twist where this is still sitting up. And we can take our parts. Drop them down in here, like so. And then we got to do the same thing. We got to work these drums down to where those clutches go over the top of that, over the outside of that ring gear for the front clutch. Now once it's all the way down, you can see that this drum doesn't actually fit all the way down there. It sits on that sun shell. It doesn't sit on the back of that drum on the bearing. The bearing is for the back of the stator. So right here is where that bearing in the back of the drum rides on this stator. Now we can put this down in place. We're going to grab our band anchor out of our basket. We have a little band anchor. We're going to take and we're going to slide this down to where it needs to be. So you can see it drop down in place. So once I've got the band in place there, you can see through here. If you come down here, you can see there the band down in there. And I'm going to put the anchor in and make sure it locks into the band. Now my band's being held in place and it's good to go. So, alright, next thing we need to do is put our gasket. Grab that out of our kit. We'll lay our gasket in here. Make sure we line it up with all the holes properly. And then we're going to put a little bit of grease around this outside bore and our O-ring on our pump so we can put that down into the case. I'm going to put some alignment pins in here to help it hold everything in place so that that gasket doesn't move while I'm putting the pump in. I want to make sure that everything stays in place. So I got some lube around here now. I've got lube around my O-ring on the pump. I'm ready to place that down in there. Line that up. There we go. Push it in real good. That's that fitting into that O-ring around the outside of the pump. That's why that's that hard to push down. So taking my O-rings out right here on these bolts. Once I get these last two out of here, I'm going to put new ones in there. These are going to seal that bolt so it doesn't leak. So once I get that O-ring on, you can put that bolt down in there. I'm going to do that all 7 of the bolts. I'm going to put the new O-rings on and drop them in place. Take these 2 guide pins out now because the bolts and everything keeping those gaskets from moving. My last 2 pump bolts are going to hold the pump in place like that. Okay, and I can take, again, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the back side of the pump. I'm going to snug these up. I'll torque them down with a torque wrench. Turn my torque wrench on, set it to the right specification, and hold the case while I turn it till, again, crosswise pattern, crosswise pattern. Should be back where I started down, yep. Put all that down there. I want to test something before I put it all, say I'm good. I'm going to take a hub similar to the converter that I'm using, put it down in there, and I want to make sure that my rotor turns nice and free. So I have no problems there. It turns nice and easy, so I'm all good there. So everything's been assembled correctly, everything works. I know I'm in good shape, I don't have to worry about it now. Alright, so the next part, what we're going to have to do is we're going to take the transmission and lift it up onto the bench. Like so. Now we got it up like this. Now we can take and we can air test our stuff through the case. That's our low reverse clutch. There's the other application of it. The other ones we're going to get. You can hear that thud when you're hitting that. That's the clutch is applying. Now you can even check my pressure, my boost valve. Hear it, it's making noise too. It's clicking. Now I want to build a servo assembly. So I'm going to roll this up on the side a little bit. So we need to finish assembling our servo. We're going to put our spring in there. The washer that goes on that. We got a little E-clip. It's going to fit there and snap into place. Now I need to put a little bit of grease in the past channels there for the seals. We'll put our new seals on there. These are scarf cut seals. So you can see the edge of them. They lay together. Put them in the bore or in the groove. And work them around. I'm going to do the same thing on the top one. Again, it's a scarf cut seal. We'll put it in the groove. Working around, I'm going to make sure the ends are meeting properly. Get the ring that fits over the top of them here, over the top of that one. That one gets a red O-ring on it. A little bit of lube on the O-ring. Put our return string for the servo down in place where it goes. And we put our servo down in there. Push it down in. Alright, now we get our other servo piston for the fourth gear. Because we're going to use that band that this servo operates for second and fourth. We're going to use a different piston for each application of using the same servo rod but a different piston. Alright, so we got another scarf cut Teflon ring goes in there. And it's got, if you look at the edge, you can see a short side and a long side. The long side goes out towards the cover. The short side goes in. Make sure we don't damage that seal, put it in, there we go. Fit in there, good. This one's got a blue O-ring that fits around the outside of it. Put some lube on that. Put that there like so. We have our snap ring that holds that in. We're going to push that down into the bore, hold it with our thumb, and lock the snap ring in place. Make sure it's in all the way around so that it doesn't pop out later. Alright, now once we get that in there like that, we can actually air test that servo as well. We got one of the locations for the second clutch or second gear right there. If you look down in here, you can actually see the band apply. There you can see it. Okay, so get it like this here maybe. Yeah, there we go. We can see the band apply at that point. There's the light. There it is. Alright, so just like on the other transmitters we looked at, we've got a shift lever with a rod that's going to push down in, and what it's going to do is it's going to push against, let me get better lighting here. So we're going to push against, let me just turn the light on this one, it might work enough here. It's just this light.
You sure?
I think so, yeah. Okay, so you can see it now. That ball goes down in and pushes against that parking pole. That's going to push it down in and lock that gear down in there. Now we don't have the gear lined up, so now it pushes against that parking pole and it can't go in. It can't push the parking pole until, turn that output shaft for me, Penny. Can't put the push the parking pole in place, the output shaft. Just turn it. The output shaft. No, the one on your left hand. until it moves to where it can actually lock that park, and then you see the spring move and pushes that ball down in there. Accumulator that goes in here, our 3/4 accumulator. We got our pin. We got some grease down on the board. We got our new O-ring on it. Technically, it's a D-ring, I guess, not an O-ring. Put that in. Make sure we got it lined up, and our pin goes all the way down in where it belongs. Then we put a new spring in there, or our spring back in there. We need a check ball for right here. And we need to get our separator plate. Now this kit comes with 4 gaskets. We only need to use 2 of them, so we're going to have to line those up with our separator plate to get the correct ones. So we'll take our separator plate and we'll lay the gaskets on here and look for a discrepancy where we got something that doesn't look right. Start from this side looking for something, and you flip it over and look at the other side, and you look for any point where it's blocking a hole like this one right here. That's got a round instead of a square on the gasket. So that gasket doesn't match this plate. So check another gasket against it. And now we know kind of where to look because we're looking at that same hole. Now that one does have a round hole where the round hole is in the plate. So we're good. This gasket's going to be the correct one. We got 4 of these to check till we find the right ones here. So line this up again. That one's got it's cut wrong. It's round instead of square there. So that's wrong. And then this one, since it's the last one, should be the right one. We want to just verify that when we're done here. We got a square hole for a square hole on the plate. We're good. Then we're going to look at these here, and this one says, if you turn it this way, it's got CA. That's going to go to the case. So we'll lay that one on the case. And then we'll lay, the other one's going to go after that. We're going to put, we got these solenoid screens that have to go in the valve or in the separator plate. We're going to go in here, and they're going to face down towards the case. So we're going to put one there and one there that goes like that. Then we can lay our plate down onto the case like so. And now we're going to get some guide pins again. Alright, so we're going to put some guide pins. There's 2 holes that are different than the rest of the holes in the plate where the bolts go through. So these 2 holes are smaller, so they fit tighter to the bolts. So those are our guide holes. We're going to use those. We're going to lay our other gasket on top now. Grab our bolts for the stiffener plate right here. Put that in like so. Then we're going to grab our 1-2 accumulator housing. We're going to put some grease inside of it on the bore there. We're going to put the 1-2 accumulator spring in there. Grab a new D-ring. It's not really an O-ring because it's rounded on the outside, it's square on the inside. And it fits down in that groove there. So put that in there like so till it's all the way in. So we got the pin in there, so we just put that in there, push that down in there, and that's good. Then we can take and set that on top there. And get our bolts. Let me grab the wrong bolt. We put our bolts down in there like so. 3 of them. And make sure we get this all lined up. Our gasket looks good. Kind of hold it flat. We'll take and we'll snug these. We'll push these down in a second. We'll snug these down. So, 10mm socket for the other 3 bolts. There's those. I'll grab my torque wrench. Alright, so we're going to set this to the right torque. We're going to use our torque wrench and we're going to torque these down. The correct torque, that way we know we're tight properly. We're not wondering if we got any bolts that are loose. Alright, now we're ready. We're going to take these guide pins back out because we don't need those now. It's going to hold everything in position now. So now we're going to be ready to start getting our valve body ready to put on. We're going to need our linkage for this. And we need to put our wiring back in place here. So let's go grab the wiring. Alright, so I got another accumulator right here. This is a neutral drive accumulator. This is for when we go from neutral to drive. It doesn't have a hard shift shock. And we're going to put a new D-ring on there, on our accumulator. Again, fitting it into the groove, making sure it's down in there properly. Slide it in here. All the way down. We'll get the accumulator pin we got to put in the center to make sure it stays lined at the center. We got our spring that goes in there. Set that like that. We got our modulator valve. It's got to go in here. And it drops down nice and easy. The spring that fits on top of that. And we got our cover that goes on top of that with 3 little bolts to hold that in place. I'll run those down. And we'll torque those 3 bolts down. We're good there. We'll make sure our APC solenoid bolt is torqued down. We're good there. Solenoid doesn't move. Set this like so. Now we're going to have, we got a new O-ring on our solenoid. Okay, so we're going to put some grease on the O-ring. And now we're going to put our wiring harness back down in here. So, there we go. And we're going to need to get our check balls. We should have seven of them total. I'm going to take those, come over here so you can see this. And we're going to put grease where the check balls go. Little pockets for each one of them. One of them's a bathtub right here, a little bathtub over type thing. We'll put our check balls down into those. There's a total of 7 of them here. So there's our first 4 right there. We got 3 more. One here, and one right here. Get a little bit of grease there. We can put check ball in there, make sure it sits into the grease so that it doesn't fall out on us. We'll put our manual valve back into our valve body. Get that stuff out of the way there. Alright, now that hook, or our linkage that's on the manual valve, or on our rooster comb, is going to fit into the manual valve right here. So that's what we got to make sure we get as we're putting this onto the transmission. So we're ready to lift this up onto the transmission. We're going to make sure that little hook goes into the manual valve. And we lay the manual valve body down, and the manual valve like that. That links in our valve. Now we're going to get our valve body bolts. All of those over here. Now 3 of these are going to have a different head than the rest. They got little 8mm heads where the rest of them have a 10mm. Those three are located right here, and right here. You put these in the wrong place. Had somebody put one here before and it made it so it wouldn't shift because it locked up that sun shell. Actually drove into the sun shell. Now I'm going to put this one right here for the moment. I'll go get my pressure manifold switch in a minute. This is one of my guide pins, so I want to put that one in there. And then I'm going to put the other guide bolt, has the dipstick stop on it. So I'll put that one in next. These are my two primary bolts. These are going to make sure that everything lines up properly. So now I can start putting the rest of my bolts in. Our pressure manifold switch back on here. Now we can take it and run all these bolts down this snide. A lot of times I'll use a speed handle to use too. Depends on what I got. Alright, so now we can torque these down. Got my 8mm on here right now, so we'll start with those. Torque those down. And switch to my 10mm. Work kind of from the center, work our way out. Alright, so you can count these out here. So that's first gear, second gear, third gear, drive, neutral, reverse, and park. I'm going to put it in neutral to start with. So put that down like that. Take our torque wrench and make sure we get it to torque. Actually, I went over torque on that. Alright, so now we can lay our wiring up here. I've already put some grease on the O-ring. I put a new screen down inside here. I'm going to throw the old screen away, maybe. Oh, here it is. So there's a screen down in there that looks like this. I put a new one in there. So I'm going to put that down in place. Push that down into the pump. We got our two bolts that we need to put on there. Hold that in place. Down, and then we torque those down also. Alright, so now we can go ahead and hook up our solenoids. Put that one in, hook it up, and we put our clip in to hold it in place. Just like that. There we go, we're all set up. We got our wiring in place. Put a little bit of lube on the end of the filter in there, and push it down into the seal inside the pump. There we go, we're good. Now we've got our pan gasket that goes on here, and I'm gonna have to go grab the pan. We got our pan all cleaned up, ready to go, nice and clean. We'll put that on there and in place. Yeah, Bob. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to put all the pan bolts in, and then we'll tighten those down. Again, I'm not tightening them down, I'm just putting them up snug. I'll come back with the torque wrench and torque them down. One. Okay, so torque these down. I need to go crosswise at first, so I'm just going to go one to the next after that. It's not really a crucial thing, it's a tin pan, it's not going to matter so much. Alright, there's all the parts. Now I've got a seal right here that I need to deal with. That's our manual shaft seal. Alright, so we got a special tool that goes in and that's going to grab that seal. We're going to tap it a little bit to get it started. Use our wrench. Down in there and grab hold of that seal once you start feeling it. Grab the seal, you're good. I can use socket. Pull that out, and there's my old seal. Take a little bit of air, compressed air, debris out of there that might be hiding back in there. Then we can take our new seal, a little bit of grease on it, work it gently over the shaft so you don't cut the seal at all. Alright, you get it down into place. And we get a tool to put that in. There we go. We replaced our manual shaft seal, so now we don't have to worry about a leak there. So that's all good. So we're ready to put a new O-ring on our input shaft. This is for the torque converter clutch to seal to. Now we can roll this transmission back up onto a pan. Like so. Get a couple here. We got a boot that needs to go in here for the filler tube. Keep a little grease on it. So I put the new filler tube boot in. That's been there. It's got a little bit of grease in there for it, so it's ready to go. We put these little clips that hold the cooler line on. New clips that come in the kit for it. We just put those on there and we snap them in place. And pop kind of funny. There we go. So that'll hold the cooler line in when it gets together. We need to put our O-ring on our adapter housing. Got a new O-ring for it. So it lays down on here. Fits around like so. Just lay our adapter housing in place. And start putting our bolts in there. Get a couple of those started. Now we kind of stay there and have a good push in. Underneath here that are a pain to get to. Alright. And we need our 15mm wall extension. Down here we're going to have to use a wrench on. Snug that one up and then we'll just check the rest and make sure it's nice and snug. There we go. So now we've just got our bell housing left to put on. Just grab it. Located, it fits around the pump right there, like so. I'll put a bolt in most of the way here, it holds it in place. There we go. And then we'll put the rest of the bolt in there. Now this one here, you can actually see the bolt holes a little bit different. That's technically our guide bolt. This one's going to make sure it's positioned correctly. So it's going to be the hardest one to get actually started. There we go. There we go. And the rest will go no problem. Done. that's it. We have a new switch we're going to be putting on here, a new range sensor. So we'll just put the bolts here for right now. We got to get that ordered. It's not here yet. So put that there. And then we get the nut for the linkage that goes right there. So, and that's it. We're all done. This transmission's ready. We just need to, once we get the torque converter, that's going to be here Monday. We won't have that today. We have the torque converter and we'll put that in. One thing we can do is put a little bit of grease on this O-ring so that it doesn't get torn or damaged while we put the converter in. But other than that, this transmission is done and ready to go.